Hi, everyone. So, in our previous class, we are talking about what is psychology, what is mental health, and what is psychological counseling, and also introduced the service of psychological counseling in our school. And today we are moving to a new topic, emotions, stress, and health. This is a very important topic, so this topic will cover like two classes. And today we are going to talk what is emotion. Okay. So what emotion exactly is? Emotions are our body's adaptive response of the whole organism. Emotions evolve sociological arousal, expressive behaviors, and conscious experience. So emotion is not just a biological react to the outside world, but an integration of sociological, psychological, and cognitive elements. Let's look further in the components of emotions. It's a model of emotional stimulation reaction, and we can see that actually emotions involve many factors like expressive behavior, our face muscles, our voice, high or low, and our gestures. They all express our emotions. And subjective experience, our feelings, our sensations, even if like our expressive behavior are the same, people may have different subjective experience towards the same thing. And sociological reactions like heart beating, breathing, sweating, excited, and our cognitions, our thoughts towards one thing or person, and our attributions, our attitudes, our values, our beliefs, they all influence emotions and engaged in the process of emotion. And our motor behavior, like what we are going to do with that emotion, probably running, hitting, freezing in face of the emotion. So let's see Darwin's view of emotions. Darwin speculated that nonverbal facial expressions led to our ancestors' survival. So what does that mean? Darwin thinks that before human language was created, like our ancestors, they communicated with each other through facial experience and body gesture. So, facial expressions, they have functions. And these functions are beneficial to the living of our mankind. Like surprise, it widens our eyes and enabling us to take in more information. And disgust. When we feel disgusting, like the nose, wrinkles, and that makes us closen it to four odors like bad smells. So it's beneficial to our body. And there are other many theories of emotions. Like in the field of emotion, in the research of emotion, there are two controversy questions. Like one is, does physiological arousal precede or follow our emotional experience? What's the relationship between physiological arousal and emotional experience? Are they the same? Or is there back or forth relationship? And the second question is, what's the relationship between thinking and feeling? Does cognition precede emotion? Or does our thinking just follows our feeling? Most people may think when we feel happy, our heart starts beating faster. And first comes conscious awareness, and then comes physiological activity. So the common sense view is our emotions happens first, and then that leads to the physiological activity. Is that true? Not exactly. Let's see some theories concerning this question, okay? So the first is James Lund theory. Just thinking of when you encounter some threat in your environment, like an oncoming car in the highway. That's scary, right? It's going to be a car crash. And your nervous system would initiate significant physiological arousal, like our heart are beating and our respiration rate is increasing. So, in the view of this theory, emotions arise from physiological arousal. Activity precedes the emotional experiences, the physiological activity. And we'll talk about physiological arousal of emotions later. So now, according to this theory, we would only experience a feeling of fear after this physiological arousal had taken place. Furthermore, different arousal patterns would be associated with different feelings. And then another theory is Canon's theory. They doubted that physiological arousal that occurs with different types of emotions is distinct enough to result in the wide variety of emotions that we experience. So, according to this theory, physiological arousal and emotional experience occur simultaneously and independently. So, when we see the oncoming car in the highway, we feel fear at exactly the same time that our body reacts. And this emotional reaction will be separate and independent of this physiological arousal, even if they co-occur. So the point is they take place simultaneously and independently. And here comes the two-factor theory. It's a theory that is widely accepted in today's research in emotion. So the two-factor theory thinks that the both physiological arousal and emotion and cognitive appraisal that can contribute to our emotional reaction. According to this theory, emotions are composed of two factors, what I've talked earlier, physiological and cognitive. In other words, physiological arousal is interpreted in context to produce the emotional experience. And let's get back to our scenario of an oncoming car in the highway. The two factors theory maintains that the car elicits our neural systems activation, and that is labeled as feel given the context. And our experience is that of fear. So if you labeled your nervous system, if you labeled your body reaction as fear, and you may feel fear, but if you label them as joy, you would have experienced joy. So the two-factor theory depends on labeling the physiological experience, and which is, of course, a type of cognitive appraisal. So we have the physiological reaction, the pounding heart, and we label it as I'm afraid, and then we feel fear. And now we know that emotions evolve our body responses, of course. And some of these responses are very noticeable, like the phrase butterflies in our stomach when fear arises. But others are more difficult to discern, like neurons activated in the brain. So the emotion and our body, they are closely connected to each other. Now we'll look further into how emotions and our nervous system are related. Like during an emotional experience, our autonomic nervous system mobilizes energy in the body that arouses. Now we're going to look at this chart. When we face a tiger, we feel scared, and we can see their eyes, salivation, skin, respiration, heart, digestion, and adrenal glands. And these body parts are all involved in our emotion of scared. So what happened when we are scared? Our pupils dilate, our salivation decreases, our skin perspires, our respiration increases, our heart accelerates, our digestion inhibits, and adrenals secrete stress hormones. Okay, that is how our body parts react when we are scared. And it is the body reactions, these body reactions, they're very similar to the reactions when we are excited. So when we are scared and when we are excited. And these body parts, their reactions are very similar to each other. And think of another scenario when there is a little kitty and it's very cute and we feel very calm, we feel very satisfied, we're happy. And what is the nervous systems? So our pupils contract, our salivation increases, our skin dries, our respiration decreases, our heart beating slows, our digestion activates, and our adrenal glands decrease secretion of stress hormones. So we can see how our autonomic nervous system reacts to our emotions. And here's a very interesting chart, the relationship between arousal and our performance. Arousal in short spurts is adaptive, like we perform better under moderate arousal, but optimal performance varies with task difficulty. When we're doing an easy task and the higher arousal we are and the higher performance level. But if it's too high and our performance level will decrease. And we can see the highest point, they are different when the task difficulty level are different. And physiological responses related to some emotions, they are very similar. For example, excitement and fear, like what I talked about earlier, they involve a very similar physiological arousal, like our heart beating increases, respiration increases. So if you're going to tell what a person feels according to the physiological reactions, and we can tell, right? Like we can't distinguish between excitement and fear because their physiological reactions, they're very similar, and sometimes they're exactly the same. However, there are so many physiological differences between emotions, like brain responses. Not only brain responses, like finger temperature and movement of facial muscles, they change like during fear, rage, and joy. We can see by observing activity in amygdala, we can distinguish between anger and rage. And we can see activity of the left frontal lobe, which is related to the emotion of happiness, is different from the right frontal lobe, which is related to the emotion of depression. So we can locate different emotions in our brain. However, the research of the brain responses and the emotions is still limited today. And emotions are expressed on the face, by the body, and by the intonation of voice, like nonverbal language. So here's a very important question. Is this nonverbal language of emotion universal? And now we know, according to the research, when culturally diverse people are shown basic facial expressions, they did fairly well at recognizing them. And cultures also share similarities in display rules, like expressing more emotions to group members than to outsiders. So we have similarities across culture, which is basic facial expressions and some display rules. However, there are also differences, and we will talk about it later. And there is a research to show the facial pictures to the children. And the result is that even little children, they can distinguish between the different basic emotions, facial expressions. And even blind children, they have never seen a face, and they can express the facial expressions just as similar to other children, other normal children. So according to these observations and research, we can conclude that many emotional expressions, facial expressions, they are universal across culture. However, there are also differences across culture, like collectivist vs versus individualist cultures. Individualist culture, they display most visible emotions. And in other cultures, like collectivism, such as Chinese culture, the Chinese culture encourages people to adjust to others, so personal emotions are less often displayed. Like when Chinese people or other people in the Eastern culture, which discourage the displaying of visible emotions, we went to the cultures that encourage visible emotions. People may think they are shy, they are introverted, but maybe it's not the personality. It's about the culture differences on the displaying emotions. Like introverted, shy, extroverted, outgoing, there are words for personality, and emotions, they're different. It is because they have different rules, different cultural standards of displaying emotions. So they may appear shy and appear introverted, but actually they may be a very outgoing person. And now we're going to look at the gender, emotion, and nonverbal behavior. Research shows that women are much better at discerning nonverbal emotions than men. Like when they are shown sad, happy, and scary film clips, women expressed more emotions than men. We can see the chart of the research, and the green bar represents women, the score of women. So, like women, they can express more emotions than men when they're seeing these film clips. And there's another very interesting question. Like here we can see two pictures. Which of the men's mouths is genuine? The left or the right? I think it's a very easy question because obviously the man in the right picture, his smile appears more genuine, right?
Yes.
Why?
His
The
facial
eyes,
expression.
right?
Yeah.
The eyes. Yeah. If you're going to tell if a person's smile is fake or genuine, the point is looking at his or her eyes. The eyes is the point to detecting emotions. And hard to control facial methods reveal signs of emotions you may be trying to conceal, like the muscles around our eyes. They're very hard to control. Like all the facial muscles, they can be divided into two different types. The first type is easy to control. We can control them by our consciousness, by our willpower. And another type of facial muscles, they were hard to control. So the first kind of muscles, when we are trying to fake our emotions, like you're actually very sad, but you want to pretend very happy, so you are making yourself smile. When you are making yourself smile, and you are using the first kind of facial muscles, the easy to control muscles. However, you can't control some hard to control facial muscles. So what is micro-expression? Micro-expression is when we are trying to conceal or you're trying to fake your emotions. And these two different kinds of facial muscles, they are kind of in a battle, right? In a conflict. One wants to be happy, wants to show the smile. Another shows our genuine emotion, sadness. And when they are in the battle, the micro-expression, it takes place. So micro-expression is a brief, fleeting facial expression of the opposite emotion to what the person is trying to convey. So micro-expression is our genuine expression when we are trying to conceal our real emotion. And psychologists, they identify like 6 basic emotions and that they are universally experienced in all human cultures. And they are happiness, sadness, disgust, fear, surprise, and anger. And now we are going to look at a short video about what emotion is. And the video will further explains what we have covered in today's lecture. And then after the video, we are going to choose 2 basic emotions to further look into, okay?
Mel Gibson did it. Tom Cruise. Mel Gibson did it. Tom Cruise nearly busted Oprah's couch doing it. Kanye pretty much has owned it for years now. Talk about expressing too much emotion, usually in public and in weird and often insensitive ways. Such regrettable outbursts are not unique to celebrities, of course, and they can be enough to make us think of our emotions as irrational, but they're not. Not usually. When they're not getting the better of us, they have work to do. Part of their job is to provide the energy and motivation that lets us meet our goals and our needs, and despite the occasional public fail, they often improve our performance in a given situation. So emotions play an important role in how we think and behave. Of course, when they blow up and someone screams at a flight attendant or punches a paparazzo or jumps on stage and grabs the mic away from a teenager in the middle of her acceptance speech to say that someone else deserves the honor more, all hail Beyonce, you're kind of off the rails of normal emotional function. Okay, definition time, general idea. Emotion is a mind and body's integrated response to a stimulus of some kind. Emotions involve physiological arousal, expressive behaviors, and conscious experience. These can be short flashes or long, lingering responses, and they can be very clear or very confusing. Say you're walking home at night and you hear footsteps behind you. Physiological arousal occurs in the form of your heart pounding. Your expressive behaviors could be like quickening your pace or moving toward a street light, and your conscious experience may include thinking, oh, I've gotta get mugged now? Is this like a werewolf behind me? Feeling, fear and panic. We know those three pieces are there, but psychologists are still puzzling out exactly how they fit together. How do thinking and feeling interact? Which one comes first? And do these bodily reactions, the pounding heart, the need to pee, the sweaty palms, come as a result of the thought I'm scared, or did my tweaking out body trigger the thought in my brain? These are just some of the questions that we'll be looking at in this messy, exhilarating, and terrifying world of emotions. No one gets out unscathed. Our emotions represent and construct a big part of who we are. Think of how boring we would be, how boring the world would be without joy, embarrassment, heartache, or fear. What would motivate us to make decisions and be cautious or bold or strive to understand each other? What would keep our humanity intact? Where would punk rock come from? No doubt. We need our emotions. But how do they work? Well, like apparently everything in psychology, there are a few different theories. In the late 1800s, pioneering American psychologist William James suggested that our feelings follow our bodily reactions to external situations. That, for example, you feel sad because you are crying, or you're scared because you're shaken like a leaf. This idea was also proposed by Danish psychologist Carl Lund, so this concept that physiological arousal precedes emotion is called the James-Lund theory. But American physiologist Walter Canon wasn't feeling it. He thought that too many of the body's reactions were too similar. A racing heart, fluttering stomach, and sweaty hands could be attributed to passion, fear, excitement, or anger, so how could they cause such different emotions? His colleague Philip Bard agreed, concluding that bodily responses and emotions occur separately but simultaneously. And this idea is the base of the Canon-Bard theory of emotion. In other words, a racing heart doesn't cause fear, nor does the feeling of fear result in a racing heart. Rather, both things happen together. Today, most psychologists agree that our emotions are also tangled up with our cognition. Whether or not we're afraid of a dog on the sidewalk depends a lot on whether we're interpreting the animal's behavior as threatening or friendly, probably also what our personal history with dogs is. In the 1960s, American psychologists Stanley Schachter and Jerome Singer interpreted this idea that cognition can define emotion into what they called their two-factor theory. They believe that to experience emotion, you must both feel physiological arousal and cognitively label that arousal. And again, please remember that in psychology, arousal is different from how you're used to using it. Here, arousal can be thought of as activation or stress or even energy, an increase in reactivity or wakefulness that primes us for some kind of action. So sometimes arousal can spill over from one event to the next. Say you just watched a heated soccer match and you're all revved up and someone looks at you funny. Suddenly, you might label that lingering arousal as anger, and the next thing you know, the whole stadium is one big rioting aggro chain reaction. Schachter and Singer examined this so-called spillover effect with an experiment that involved an unusual combination of college guys and drunks. First, they injected a bunch of college guys with the hormone epinephrine. This is basically adrenaline, and as you yourself have probably experienced, it induces a level of physiological activation that can go any number of ways emotionally. But then they threw a curveball. Some of the subjects were told to expect symptoms of feeling all revved up, while others were told the injection wouldn't produce any effects at all. Then, after being injected, each subject was left in a waiting room, and with them in the room was an actor, pretending to wait as well, and acting either all jerky and irritated or super happy and euphoric. So he's just sitting there, jacked up on this hormone, and his heart is racing, and his cheeks are all flushed. And in the case where the subject was told not to expect any effects, the study found that the guy would actually adopt the emotion of the actor in the room, becoming happy or testy, depending depending on how the person was acting. His body was having a physiological response to the hormone, but he ended up effectively deciding which emotion he was feeling. But if the subject had been told that the injection would make him feel all pumped up, he'd actually report very little emotion, just because he was blaming that racing heart and flushed face on the drug, not a particular state of mind. So in terms of the two-factor theory, the cause of physiological arousal has to be identified before a person could feel and label the response of the particular emotion. To Chapter, Singer, and their disciples, this meant that arousal spurs emotion, but cognition directs it. And yet some researchers, like Polish-born American psychologist Robert Zients, contend that all emotions are the result of just putting a name to our arousal. He suggests that many of our emotional reactions occur separately or even before our cognition kicks in. If you hear a sudden crash outside your window, you'll automatically react with a jolt before your brain has a chance to think, gee, what was that crazy noise? Should I feel startled? This is in part because when it comes to emotions, it's thought that our brains process sensory input by two different kinds of routes, top-down or bottom-up approaches, and neuroscientists can actually chart these two pathways in action. Some bigger, more complex feelings like love and hatred take what we call the high road. Say you read a love letter from your sweetie. You can pin that mushy feeling in your heart to the sensory stimulus of reading, traveling from your eyes all the way through your thalamus to your brain's cortex. There it can be analyzed by means of your cognitive process, perhaps consciously, perhaps implicitly, and labeled with like, not for me, at which point it heads to your limbic system, the central brain region that drives emotion, motivation, and at that point, you respond with all the warm fuzzies. Other emotions like simple likes, aversions, and fears don't have to involve actual thinking and take a sort of low-road neural path, like that crash outside or a baseball flying at your head. Such jump out of your chair stimuli bypass the cortex and zip right from the ear or the eye to the amygdala and the limbic system. It's a knee-jerk reaction that allows us to react quickly, often in the face of potential danger. In other words, that slower high-road cortex route allows thinking about feeling, while the quick, low-road shortcut allows instant emotional reaction. The stomach flip that happens when you see your ex, or 10,000 tea breaks you gotta take before you give a speech, or your heart racing after a really good kiss. It's hard to argue with the fact that we often feel emotions with our bodies as much as with our brains. And you can thank your autonomic nervous system the next time you're freaking out or trying to calm yourself down. Perhaps you recall when we talked about the roles of the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches of our autonomic nervous system. The sympathetic division is what arouses you in a crisis. It makes you hyper-aware, makes your heart rate and breathing increase, spikes your blood sugar for extra energy, all that fun stuff. It's like a pit crew readying you for action, and once it's done its job and the danger has passed, the parasympathetic division steps in and talks you back down from the edge, slowing down your heart and breathing rates and shutting off those stress hormones, generally rubbing you back and being all, it's gonna be okay, baby. What you need is the right degree of arousal for the situation. For example, if you're navigating through fast-moving traffic in an unfamiliar city, you want to hit the sweet spot of optimal arousal that allows you to focus your attention without either freaking out or getting all mellow and sleepy. Like we've said before, there's a lot of overlap in the symptoms of different emotions. If you monitor the heart rate, breathing, and perspiration of a group of people who are watching 3 different movies, you probably couldn't tell who was watching a grisly horror movie, an angry fight, or a hot sex scene. Fear, anger, and sexual arousal often deliver some of the same biological signals, but those emotions certainly feel different to the people experiencing them, just as they usually look different to others observing their expressions. And though differences in emotion can appear subtle or even undetectable on brain scans, many of them do show distinctive patterns. For most people, positive feelings tend to show more activity in the left frontal lobe, while negative ones show up more in the right frontal lobe. And someone who's very afraid will show increased activity in the amygdala, our more primal emotional center. Emotions are fascinating things that drive us to do all sorts of brilliant and weird stuff. Understanding them and being able to read them both in yourself and others is vital if you want to make it through even an average day. But misreading your emotions or someone else's can be confusing, even dangerous, and it's just one of the things that we'll be looking at next week. Today, you learned about what emotions are, how they work, and why we need them. We talked about the James Lund, Canon, Chapter, and Singer, and Zients theories, and we also looked at the relationship between cognition and emotion and how the autonomic nervous system mobilizes emotion. Thanks for watching, especially to all of our Simple subscribers who make Crash Course possible. To find out how you can become a supporter, just go to simple.com.
老师，
Okay. What?
There's this kind of echo, and it's doubling the voice in the video. So it was quite hard listening or paying attention carefully. Yeah, I got the concept, but I mean, like next time maybe if there's a way to adjust it, maybe it will be better.
Oh, I see. So there's an echo of the voice, and you can't exactly
Yeah, in the
hear the
video.
voice. Okay, right?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Um, I will check. I will check with the computer
Uh,
and Google it. What the problem is. Okay.
no problem. Okay.
Okay. Does the echo of the voice happens when I play the video or throughout the time of the course?
Just the
Only
video.
when the
Just the video.
video is just the video.
I see. I see. Only when I play the video. Okay.
Yeah.
And now we are going to take 10 minutes break, and we are back at 5 o'clock. Okay. And then we are going to talk about our next topic.
Like,
Okay, Lucy. All right. Okay.
here. Mm.
Now everyone, back to the class. Sorry for the late start. I was.
Yes, Laoshi. Yeah, it's okay, Laoshi, no problem.
Okay. I was Googling how to avoid the voice echo when we are online meeting. And I kind of forget the time. I'm sorry.
Okay, no
So
problem.
now we're going to talk about two basic emotions. I choose a very common two basic emotions, anger and happiness, and we'll look into them further. Let me share the slide. Can all you guys see the screen?
Yes, 老师.
Yes, Laoshi.
Okay. So we have talked about what emotion is, the components of emotions, and four basic theory of emotion, and the culture and emotion, gender and emotion, and detecting emotions. Here we are going to look deeper into basic emotions. The first is anger. Anger can carry the mind away, but makes any coward brave. Like in common sense, we often view anger from a negative approach. We see it as a negative emotion. It's bad. We can display anger. It can harm people. However, like from this sentence, we can see there are actually two sides of anger. It can carry the mind away, the bad side, but it also has its function. It makes the coward brave, it makes us brave. And also it has its function to make humankind survive. Because we can feel anger, and when we face the danger in the environment, our body, it can react very quickly and help us run or fight back. So what is anger? Anger is a normal human emotion that we all experience. Everyone will feel annoyed, frustrated, irritated, or even angry from time to time. Anger is a response to a frustration or injury, or expressing yourself in an impulsive manner without thought. It's typically triggered by a threat, perceived threat. It is very important because the threat can be real or imaginary, just in your head. An injustice, hurt, or frustration when faced with an obstacle. It's a mixture of emotional, physiological, and cognitive elements. Like when we feel anger, our heart rate and blood pressure goes up, and there are levels of energy hormones, adrenaline and non-adrenaline goes up. And it's an emotional state that varies in intensity from mild irritation to intense fury and rage. And anger vary from person to person, from situation to situation. It is a strong feeling of displeasure with someone or something, combined with an urge to fight back. So there are many research about culture and gender differences when the people react differently when we are in anger. It's very interesting. Like there's a research, the result is that the boys respond to anger by moving away from the situation, while girls talk to their friends or listen to music. And it's important to know that like the other culture or gender differences, it doesn't mean that all the boys or all the girls, they react the same way when we are in anger or other things. It's just like a general, but it's not exactly the thing. So it's important that we can have the thinking that to avoid the stereotype in mind, to keep that in mind when we are reading the research about cultural or gender differences. So according to the research, like the boys are more likely to take in the escapative way when we're facing anger. And while girls, when they're frustrated or anger or experiencing other negative emotions, it's more likely for them to talk or other things to comfort themselves. And anger breeds prejudice, like in the 9/11 attacks, and that led to the intolerance towards immigrants and Muslims. We can see the acceleration of anger in many cultural and political situations. And actually, anger is one of the emotions that can contribute to the many wars and other historical issues, political issues, and it can be easily used by politicians. The expression of anger is more encouraged in cultures that do not promote group behavior than in cultures that do promote group behavior. So we can link that to what I talked about earlier about the cultural differences in displaying emotions, like in many Western countries, which take the individualism approach, and people are encouraged to display their expressions, including anger, including negative emotions. And in collectivism, like in China or other countries, people may feel, if you express your anger or other negative emotions, and it will make like the group or the atmosphere very awkward. It's not nice to express your negative emotions. It's better if we just impress them in our mind and not display them. It is a very common view that if you're venting anger through action or fantasy, it achieves an emotional release or called catharsis. However, contradict to the common sense, research has not supported the catharsis hypothesis. So actually, venting anger just breeds more anger. It is not the best way to deal with anger. The natural way to express anger is to respond aggressively, right? Like to fight back, to insult back, or to act very aggressively. The anger often inspires powerful, often aggressive feelings and behaviors, and that allows us to fight and defend ourselves when we are attacked. It is extremely important to recognize the difference between anger and aggression. Although the two are similar and may occur together, anger is an emotion that may result from frustration, fear, stress, annoyance, low self-esteem, disappointment, and resentment. However, aggression is a negative act intending to hurt someone or something. Anger can sometimes feel intense and overwhelming, but it does not necessarily lead to violent or aggressive behavior. So aggression is one negative way in which individuals express anger, and aggression causes damage with words, fists, or weapons, but it is virtually always designed to punish. And aggression is tending to threaten or injure the victim's security or self-esteem. The anger, feeling, aggression, action. And we can always express our anger without being verbally or physically abusive. So how we do that? How to deal with anger? The first is to identify the situations that are most likely to make you feel anger. To know your trigger, what your trigger is. And it is also a very good way to help you know yourself. What triggers me most. And next time when you interact with other people, when your trigger is not that common, you can tell the other people or tell the other person that something and these things may trigger me, will make us feel frustrated or make us feel angry. And then the other person will know and try to avoid to trigger you when he or she is interacting with you. So it's very important to know your triggers and communicate with others clearly with what your triggers are. So once you know your anger triggers, and then you can either try to avoid them, learn how to deal with them, learn how to put your feelings into words, explore them and name the emotions. Like, what are the emotions behind your anger? It is hurt or confused or shame or not feeling safe, not feeling secure, or I want to be loved, but I just get turned down. It is very important to put your feelings into words and to express them clearly, especially in the relationships. So how to deal with the anger exactly? First, stay calm. There are many tricks to help you stay calm. First is like walk away, to keep a distance from the situation that will make you feel anger. Another is count to 10 and take deep breath. It seems very easy, but it's very extremely helpful to take deep breath because deep breath, it also links to our body reactions. It can make us heart beats slower, make us respiration decreases. And also, deep breath can decrease the level of our stress hormones. And these positive body reactions, they can reversely influence our emotions too. So if you take deep breath, and then you may feel more calm because that's the body reactions. And we can also use calming self-talk like, I can handle this. Chill is not as bad as it seems. Talk to yourself, make yourself calm. And you can imagine you are in a peaceful place. Something or someone that can make you feel safe, happy, or peaceful, and or satisfied. There's another very useful technique in psychology. It's like saying the colors in the room. When we'll feel extreme emotions, and after you take deep breath, you can just look around your surroundings and you talk to yourself like, now I can see a like red flower. Now I can see a brown floor. I can see a white bed. I can see blah, 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 and other things. So by this way, it can make you focus on the physical environment instead of your inner emotions because of the emotions are too overwhelming. And if you are overwhelmed by these emotions, that may well make you feel lose control and to take aggressive behaviors. And there are other tricks like give yourself some time to sort things out, write the problem down on paper, thinking through, ask yourself what really happened. How was it triggered? What were my cues? Or talk it over with a friend or adult you trust and look at the situation from a different viewpoint. And all these tips, the tips in this page is things you can do when you are calmed down. And these tips is the things you can do when you are feeling anger, when you feel like maybe you can't control yourself. So we've talked about what anger is and ways to control our anger and manage our anger. People may think venting anger is not a good idea, like catharsis. However, like if we just impress our anger, and we don't display them, it's also very harmful. And now we are going to watch another video about what will happen if you impress our anger all the time. I've already done some research, like how to avoid voice echoing, but I'm not sure if that's working.
We're sometimes swept away by a mood of sadness.
Can you still hear the echo of the voice? Is it okay now, or there's still an echo?
Yeah, it's still working.
It's working.
Yeah.
So there is no echo of the voice.
No.
We're sometimes swept away by a mood of sadness.
Okay, nice.
We're sometimes swept away by a mood of sadness that seems to have no cause. We wake up dispirited and listless. We lack energy and direction. Everything loses its taste, and the smallest challenges feel unfeasibly heavy. We struggle to see the point of almost anything. We are, as the doctors may tell us, in a state of severe depression. One of the strangest but most provocative insights about depression is to be found in the works of psychoanalysis that tell us that depression may not at heart be about sadness. It is a kind of anger that's been unable to find expression, that has turned in on itself and made us sad about everything and everyone, when we are, in truth, deep down, angry only about certain specific things and specific people. If only we could understand our disappointment and rage more intimately, we could, the theory holds, eventually regain our spirits. It isn't existence per se that's let us down. It is a few particular events and actors whose precise identity we have lost sight of. The theory at once begs questions. How is it possible that we be both profoundly angry and yet unaware of the causes or direction of our annoyance? However, this lack of self-knowledge is, in terms of our overall mental functioning, not entirely surprising or anomalous. We're endemically bad at keeping close tabs on the origin and nature of many of our feelings. We can laugh deeply and yet struggle to explain exactly why something has set us off. We can find a landscape beautiful, a person charming, or a film nostalgia-inducing, without having any sort of hold on the detailed mechanics of our responses. Understanding has an established habit of trailing far beyond feeling.
it isn't just around sadness and despair that we can be strangers to ourselves. But there is another, more pointed reason why we can lose touch with our anger. Because we've been taught, probably since earliest childhood, that it isn't very nice to be angry. Anger violates our image of ourselves as kindly and sympathetic people. It can be too painful and guilt-inducing to acknowledge that we may feel furious and vengeful, not least towards people whom we otherwise still love and who might have made many sacrifices on our behalves. What we're angry about may also sound absurd. Perhaps we've been hurt by the sort of thing that could be helpfully dismissed as small, and which we learn not to pay attention to because we imagine ourselves as strong and above being slighted by petty injuries, injuries which prove as substantially just the same. Lastly, we might be bad at getting angry because we haven't seen examples of successful expressions of anger around us. We might associate the word with volcanic, crazed construction as dangerous as it's counterproductive. Or else, we might have lived for too long surrounded by people who never dared to raise their voices and bitterly swallowed every hurt instead. We've not learned the art of a controlled and cathartic conversation. The way out of this sort of depression is to realize that its alternative isn't cheerfulness, but mourning. Mourning is a useful word, for it indicates a focused kind of grief over an identifiable kind of loss. As mourners, we turn boundless, unnameable sadness into much more specific hurt. A hurt about the parent who wasn't there for us, about the sibling who mocked us, the lover who betrayed us, the friend who lied. It isn't necessarily always an idea to go out and confront these people, some of them may already be dead anyway, but mulling over what's happened and becoming conscious of the full scale of our disavowed rage and burden can decisively change our mood all the same. Even as specific relationships and episodes become more complicated in our minds, life as a whole starts to appear more manageable and hopeful. We're never quite done with the business of knowing our own minds.
So the video is talking about depression, the relationship between depression and the anger that is not properly dealt with. Because in our culture, or in many cultures of different countries, it is not nice to display our anger, especially to someone we love. So, however, the feeling of frustration and anger, it doesn't disappear. Even if, though we didn't display it by our facial expressions or body language, they're still in our mind. They're not appropriately dealt with, so they just accelerated, and then it becomes depression. So the video is just talking about like the process of it and how we deal with our anger, our emotions, to understand our emotion, to be aware of our emotions, and to put our emotions into words and find a better way to deal with them. And now we are talking about a very positive emotion. We've talked about a typical negative emotion, anger. Now we're talking about a positive emotion, happiness. People who are happy perceive the world as being safer. They're able to make decisions easily and more cooperative, rate job applicants more favorably, and live healthier, energized, and more satisfied lives. We all know happy people, they're more healthier, they live a more satisfied life, like their life is kind of full of sunshine. And also, happy people, they're more willing to help others. It's called the feel good, do good phenomenon. When we feel happy, we're more willing to help. And the level of happiness is subjective. Different people, they have different views and different standards of what is happiness. It is called subjective well-being. It is the self-perceived feeling of happiness or satisfaction with life. Like research on new positive psychology is on the rise. There is a subfield of psychology. It's called positive psychology. And all this field is focused on the research on subjective well-being. We all experience emotional ups and downs in our day. Like our positive moods can rise to a maximum within like 6 to 7 hours after waking up. And our negative moods stay more or less the same throughout the day. We can see. Here is the time since rising hours. Here's the average mood levels. We see the positive emotions. It's like a down U. A negative emotion, it stays more or less the same. It was noting that it's the time since rising. It's not the time in the day. It's not 1 o'clock. It's 1 hour after we get off the bed. So now we can understand why in the midnight or in the evening, people are more likely to feel sad, to like thinking about our life and be negative, experiencing negative moods. And here comes a very important question. And many people are thinking about it. Does money buy happiness? What is the relationship of being wealthy and being happy? Research shows in affluent societies, in rich countries, rich communities, people with more money are happier than people who struggle for their basic needs. So it seems like money can actually buy happiness, right? And people in rich countries are happier than people in poor countries, averagely. And a sudden rise in financial conditions can make people happy. However, people who live in poverty or in slums, poor people, they're also satisfied with their life, like some people, not all the people. Why? Now we can see the chart. Does the percentage of being happy rises just according to the rise of personal income? No. We can see these two lines. They're completely like separated from each other, right? So money does not guarantee happiness. Like many people will believe that if they are wealthier, they would be happier. However, like data just suggests that they would only be happy temporarily for a short time because we can adapt to the situation that we are rich. And wealth is like health. Wealth is like health. If we lack of money completely or the utter absence of wealth, it can breed misery. Of course, people with no money, they can't live in this society. We can't buy food, a proper home, house. We have nowhere to live. However, having money is no guarantee of happiness. There are other more factors that can contribute to the level of happiness. Here's a very interesting research. It's a research conducted in 82 countries to measure their subjective well-being of the citizens. subjective well-being is happiness plus satisfaction of their life. And research shows who is the top one. It's a country that probably a lot of people have never heard of, Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is a Caribbean island. It is an unincorporated territory of the United States, but it has its own government. And it is not a rich country. It is more like a poor country. We can see that Puerto Rico and Mexico, which is usually not viewed as rich countries, they're at the top of the list. They're at the top of the list. So wealth is not identical to happiness. And what other factors that contribute to our life satisfaction? Here we can see the research shows that values. It is a survey conducted to university students, like students who value love more than money. They report higher life satisfaction. We can see these two lines. They're kind of completely opposite. Like the value of and the importance of money, the scores increases and the life satisfaction just decreases. And for people who value love as a more important factor in their life, the importance scores increases and the life satisfaction scores increases too. However, the result of this research, there are also some controversies because it is conducted to students. And students, they haven't entered the society. They haven't faced the pressure of work, of family. So probably it is because their students are not working adults. If you conducted the research on working adults, probably the research result will be completely different. And here are the predictors of happiness based on the research results. Like, why are some people generally more happy than others? Like, researchers have found that happy people tend to have high self-esteem, be more optimistic, outgoing, and agreeable, have close friendships or satisfying marriage, have work and leisure, then engage their skills, have a meaningful religious faith, sleep well, and exercise. However, happiness seems not much related to other factors, such as age. It is not correlated with age and gender. However, our research shows that women are more often depressed, but also more often joyful. So the general level of happiness and satisfaction, it has no significant correlation to gender, education levels, parenthood, like having children or not, and physical attractiveness. Here's the factors that they has no correlation with happiness. And what correlated with happiness is self-esteem, like their personality, relationships, work or leisure, beliefs, faith, and their lifestyle. And here are the two basic emotions. We've reviewed anger and happiness, and we talked about what is happiness and some research about happiness. And does wealth correlated with happiness? Does money can buy happiness? And now we know the answer is not exactly. They are correlated, but wealth is not a guarantee of happiness. There are many other factors that contribute to happiness. Here we're going to summarize what we have talked about today, especially the four theoretical research traditions on emotions. like we've talked about the Darwin's theory, like emotions, they have adaptive functions and they're universal because the functions, they are meant to keep all the humankind survival. And another theoretical approach is that emotions are determined by bodily responses, and it focuses on studying the neuron system and our body reactions, its relationship with emotions. Another is cognitive approach. Emotions are based on cognitive appraisals. Because we label our physiological reactions as fear or joy or excitement, and then we feel the emotions. So what determines emotion is not our body reactions, it's our cognitive label, how we label them, how we name them. Last is social constructivist approach, emotions of social constructions and serve social purposes. And we also talk about the two-factor theory, right? Emotions, it has two different components, physiological reactions and cognitive appraisal, and they are independent and separated. And now we are going to talk about what our group work is. The first, you're going to choose one mental health topic your group are interested in. As I talked earlier in the WeChat group, it's one group, one topic, okay? It's not everyone to choose one topic. You may feel confused because the group information sheet I posted last week, it asks you to write down your interested mental health topic. That's because I want to know what's the most interested topic in our class that can help me to prepare the class. It's not about you should choose the topic for your group work, okay? So one group, one topic. And then you are going to do your research in your group. It's not a scientific research. It's you are doing some literature work, reviewing some literature. There are many online resources or books or magazines or journals, or you can do your own survey. A little survey just conducted on 50 people, 60 people, or 10 people even is okay. You can interview 10 people. And you can do a little experiment. It's not that strictly scientific thing. It's just it's just a little research. And then you are going to present your group research, what your topic is, what's the literature review of your topic, why you are interested in it, and what have you done, what's your research about, and the research result. Okay, so you are going to present your group research in the last class to use your PowerPoint. And to present it to the whole class. And each group takes 10 minutes, each group 10 minutes. You're going to work as a team. And in a team, we all know that some people may contribute to the group work more, and some people, they just don't do anything, just let the other people to do the work for them. So in this course, we are going to use anonymous online questionnaire. I will post the questionnaire link to the WeChat group in our last class. And what you are going to do in the online questionnaire is you're going to rate the level of contribution to the group of each member. Now to write down the name of the group members, you are going to rate to what level he or she has contributed to the group work, okay? And
Okay.
the score. Okay.
Laushi, could you please recommend some references book for our this research?
Because I'm thinking about it, but I haven't done some.
Can use Google.
No,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
no,
you
no.
can use
Google is
Google
not.
Scholar.
I think Google is not exact thing. Laushi can recommend some reference book, or you can just give name or book name and author name, or you can just give some journal. We will study on that, then we will write.
I see, I see. I think about it earlier, but because you will choose different mental health topics, right? And for each topic, there are different recommendations, resources. So this week, you are going to decide on your research topic and you are going to send them to me. And then I will review what your topic is and I will give you the recommendations for each group. So it's not for the whole class. I will give you the recommendation research for each group according to your research topic. But if you need the recommendations, you just come to me, okay?
Of course. Thank you, Laushi.
Okay, Laushi.
Because there are too many topics, so I'm not going to give all of you. It's just if you feel the need, if you need a recommendation, you come to me and I will give you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So the homework for this week is to decide on your research topic in your group. Okay, one group, one topic, and just send the research topic of your group to class monitor. And the class monitor send them to me on WeChat. Because I've received too many. If each group send your topic to me, I will receive too many messages. So you are going to send your topic of your group to class monitor and class monitor send them to me, okay? Okay. And please write down your class and group name with the research topic.
Laushi, can you send the PDF file to WeChat group?
I will. I will send the slide to the group.
Okay, Laushi.
And it's worth noting that please be specific on your research topic. Please don't just send me like, our group want to research on intimate relationship. It's too general. The field is too big. So just be specific, okay? A specific question.
We have to go deep.
Yes. It's not too deep. It's like you need to be specific to one point. It's not a too general topic. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So, is there any other questions?
No, Laushi.
No, Laushi.
Okay. So please remember to do your group homework and send the topic to class monitor. Don't send it directly to me, okay? Don't send it directly to me. Send the topic to class monitor and class monitor send them to me. Okay.
Laushi, I have a question. Send the research topic of your group to class monitor. You have to send it individually or as a group.
Just send the topic to class monitor. Don't send them to me, to the class monitor, okay?
As a group
I
or
think he was
individually?
asking,
as a group.
Individually
as a
or
group.
Bro, we have a group leader. So the group leader will send the topic.
as a group.
Yeah, class Monday.
We have sent it by our next class.
Laushi,
The
what is the
research.
deadline for it?
Sorry.
Class? What's
Sorry,
the
could you
deadline for
repeat?
submitting?
Before next class.
Yes, before next class.
Okay, Laushi.
Okay. And someone haven't sent the group information sheet. And for someone who haven't sent them, just send them in the group chat, WeChat, okay?
Laushe, about discussing the topic, should we say it individual or anyone just say it in a group?
No.
The group. As a group.
One group, one topic.
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
but who can say it? Like group leader or anyone can say it in the group.
Yeah, everyone should.
Your group decide on your group leader, and the way you are selecting the topic is the business of your own group.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
So today's class is over. Thank you all, and have a nice day. Bye.
Okay, Laushi. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Laushi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see you next class.